You know why I love JRPGs? Because they immerse you in these beautiful, interesting worlds. They give you these combat systems that give so much player variety in how you play with them. And they give you these awesome boss fights with incredible music. And that is exactly what Visions of Mana did. This is going to be a very fun review. Thank you Square Enix for the review code, but I also went out and got a physical. Goated box art. Visions of Mana is seriously one of the most charming games I've played all year. It almost reached the top and made my game of the year. That's how much I enjoyed this game. Honestly, what surprised me the most is the story. I've actually got deep into the characters and wanted to know what was going to happen next. You're following these special characters called alms, and they need to be taken to the mana tree to sacrifice their souls, and you're questioning why this is from the beginning, and you're following your very optimistic, awesome protagonist, Val, who I ended up really enjoying. He's the soul guard. His objective is take the alms to the tree and protect them. And this simple premise actually makes way to a very interesting story. I actually enjoyed the entire cast here. My favorite was absolutely Paulina. I think, first of all, her design is just ridiculous. She's literally a squirrel, and her hair buns are made to be squirrel ears. Like, it's crazy. Her design is awesome. Her weapons are awesome. She uses, like, a scythe, a mace, and then just her bare feet kicking people around, and I genuinely think all the characters are pretty cool. And as I was going through the story, I realized this game has a very good progression with its combat system, and that was really surprising to me. So at first I was playing through hard mode and I was getting a little annoyed with the super armor, and then I consulted some of my nerd friends and they were like, are you building your characters correctly? And then I realized this game is much more RPG than action RPG. And what do I mean by that? Well, you're not really going to primarily be focusing on perfect dodging or anything like that. You're going to be building your characters correctly. So if you want to stagger an enemy with super armor, you need to take your character who has a lot of good damage, put a lot of crit rate on him, put a lot of other things that are going to make him have even more damage. You know what I mean? You got to build your characters correctly, and the game is going to reward you for it. And the way you majorly build your characters is through the elemental vessels, and this was just a lot of fun. Every time you put a different elemental vessel on your character, it's going to change their outfit, almost like getting a badass new skin in a video game. It's going to change their stats, and it's going to change their weapon. Each character has 3 different weapons they could use, and I think the variety and combos with each weapon are very fantastic. By the end of the game, I had very few complaints of the combat system. Even bosses are set up very well, and they let you do crits by jumping up and hitting them in the face, which is also really good. I like that each character could double jump and run around really fast. The game just gives you a lot of player control, and that's really fun. Especially if you like building your team, like if you like RPG mechanics, like building your defense, building your tank, building your attacker, building your mage, all that type of stuff, you're really gonna enjoy this game. Especially because the strategy section is really deep. Like when you command your AI to do certain things, they will do them. Like you could have one character do a bunch of buffs and that's all they'll do. You could put them in the corner, tell them sit there and just buff my team, and you could do that. So it's very much RPG over action RPG, but the action mechanics are actually really good. Like the dodge is very smooth. There's no iframes or any of that when you're dodging, but in general, the game gives you very good cues when a big move is going to come out so you can get out of the way. And again, you could double jump and do all these things. Even one of the vessels lets you grapple towards enemies. So there's a lot of ways to get around your environment and has a lot of good just action elements, even though the RPG mechanics come first. The game is semi-open world, so they needed to fill these zones with interesting things to do, right? And I actually think they did a good job. So I said you could run around the map really fast, but aside that, you have a lot of mounts you could do. Like you got your big dog here you could run around with, you could fly, you could sail on the water. So there's a lot of ways to get around your environment, and it's really fun. And then they filled the areas with pretty good things. Like you could collect this grizzly syrup, which you could turn in for other items. So there's like collectathon type things, and you could find these certain dungeons where they take you down below and you have to do waves of enemies and see if you could beat them. There's sections that are called ruins that I thought were really cool. It reminded me of Xenoblade, where you could be running around fighting normal enemies and you'll just come across these ruins and the enemies will be level 50. And you can beat them if you're good enough and have the right strategy, but it's really tough. And you don't really want to go there until later in the game. So I thought that was cool, brought a lot of variety. I like when the areas are set up where you don't really know what you're going to see around the corner, and this game did a good job with that in my opinion. My only minor complaint towards these big zones was the elemental vessels. Like, you could use all the elements to do specific things in your environment, but they're very specific. Like, the wind will stop the wind from flowing so you could cross a river easier. You could hop in bubbles to float to get to higher vertical areas. Basically things like that, but you could only use those elemental vessels when the game requires it, so it's very on rails, and I was like, I feel like they could have done a better job giving more player control over the vessels in the environment. And one other minor complaint, why can I not double jump in towns? I don't know why this is a new thing. I noticed this in a lot of RPGs recently. I think it's to mimic older games, but let me keep all of my movement when I'm in a town. I don't see the reason why I am like slowed down once I reach a town. One aspect that just blew me away was the music. I honestly was so surprised how much variation there was in this OST. Like, there's an absurd amount of bosses in this game, and you'll be surprised how many different songs they'll have for boss themes. Like, a lot of games will reuse boss themes a lot. Not this game. This game will just drop a whole new banger song on you out of nowhere after you just heard 2 previous banger songs, and I thought that was really good. Also, when you're exploring these environments and the songs are more peaceful and atmospheric, I think they're also very good. The music just adds to the sense of adventure that Visions of Mana does so well. Like, I needed this game right now in my life. It just brings a lot of good vibes, like walking around and seeing the pretty colors, seeing what next beautiful environment you're gonna see next, riding your mount to the sunset, fighting battles in a really pretty environment. Like, the game just brings good vibes, and I've really had a good time throughout my entire journey here. And that starts bringing a good sense of immersion when you start feeling you're on an adventure with your cast of characters. I was playing the game on a PS5 in performance mode, and it was a very good performance mode. Everything looks very crisp. The 60 FPS pretty much held most of the time. And if you go back over to the quality mode, I really enjoyed this. They basically leave it as an unlocked frame rate. So sometimes it'll even hit 60 and you could play in 4K and the frame rate will be pretty high. Albeit not 60 most of the time, but it's still smooth. So if you want to play in 4K graphics, you're not going to be stuck at 30 FPS. So the game is optimized very well. I know PC, it has some other issues, but for the majority of people that I've heard from, it runs pretty dang well, and you could go way up in the high FPS zone. So yeah, this is a very well-rounded JRPG, a good adventure with a great cast of characters, a fun combat system that is very competently made, has a lot of good depth that players could get some good control over, fight some pretty insane bosses with some awesome music. It's a very good game, and I honestly enjoyed my entire playthrough. I don't have very many complaints, and I honestly rank it top 3 so far of this year. It's like Stellar Blade, this, and then I'm not really sure what my 3rd spot is, but Visions of Mana is in the top 3 of this year. So I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Visions of Mana. Honestly, I can't recommend this game enough. I really thought it was absolutely incredible. Again, thank you so much, Square Enix, for sending me a code for this game. I really appreciate it. And in general, I went out and got my own copy because, again, I thought this game was just so awesome. So I'm going to play the rest of the Mana series. This game sparked a complete interest and curiosity for the rest of the series, so I'm definitely gonna be picking those up, and I hope you guys enjoy your Mana adventure if you guys pick up Visions of Mana yourself. So let me know down below, are you guys enjoying Visions of Mana? Did you already play it? Did you pick it up from this review? I always love hearing comments like that. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next review or video. Peace.